Hi guys, I'm Mark and I'm 15 years old. Have you ever met people who bore you to death with endless phrases like, I'm vegan, you should try it too, I only eat plant-based foods, you should be vegan too? It's very annoying, but that's still okay compared to the diet my father went on and what it led to. It was a beautiful night and I was sleeping soundly and I was having a dream about food. Don't laugh, but it felt like I was in a different world and I was completely surrounded by food. French fries grew from the ground, and instead of flowers, there were burgers. There was a river nearby, and it was carbonated like Coke. But suddenly, my peace was disturbed by a sound, and I awoke. I heard something rattling in my room, and I thought it was coming from the ventilation duct. I was a little scared, but I got out of bed anyway and decided to find out what was going on. I went to the grill, and just as I bent down to look in it, a big locust flew right in my face and started flying around my room, hitting all the walls. I swear to you, I thought I was going to have a heart attack from the fright. I wish it was just a nightmare, and I could wake up back to the world of burger flowers. But no, it was my reality, and different bugs had been a part of it for months. It all started when my dad started having health problems. I have to say, his problems were a matter of time. He's been living a very unhealthy lifestyle for a long time, and he put on a lot of weight over the last few years. Dad ate everything in huge quantities, and he could easily eat a large basket of wings in just a couple of minutes. So when the problem started, the doctors advised him to go on a diet, and naturally, my father didn't want to put up with that. So he went to different doctors until he found one that showed him all the possible outcomes in the form of cancer, diabetes, and other stuff like that. And finally, Dad got down to business. From that moment on, our whole family switched to a healthy diet. My mother and I did it to support my dad, especially since it didn't cause any inconvenience. We just reduced the amount of food we ate and started to eat more plants and vegetables. Dad even started exercising to get back in shape like a few years ago. But no matter what he did, he still had anxiety and the fear of future illnesses. So he began to spend a lot of time on the internet, looking for a way to avoid them. And one night, he came home with something very unusual. He put a plastic bowl on the table, and there was something alive in it. It looked like a cricket or a grasshopper. And then Dad started explaining what he was up to. He read on the internet about the chitin diet, or whatever it was called. This diet helped to suppress the growth of cancer cells, lower cholesterol, and a billion other useful things. But the fact is that for this diet, you had to eat bugs. I couldn't believe my father really meant it. It was more like some kind of prank. I really wanted to get up and go find the hidden camera in the kitchen, and then have a good laugh about the whole situation. But the whole thing with the bugs was real. Dad began to persuade us to at least try it. He said that in Asian countries, it is generally considered a common dish. Okay, my mum and I agreed to try this exotic food and think about it. So Dad started cooking. Half an hour later, there was a plate with a couple of grasshoppers in front of me. The spices smelled really good and stimulated my appetite, but the general view of the whole dish was simply frightening. I took the grasshopper in my hand and prepared to try it. At that moment, I felt like I was on the edge of a cliff, where I had to jump off and into deep water. I just looked down and I was afraid. But I knew the longer you thought, the more scared you got. So I just dropped the big bug in my mouth and started chewing. A second later, I grimaced. It wasn't the taste, it was just how it felt. Something kept crunching in my teeth. It was like I ate an eggshell or something. All the while, my father stared at me with bulging eyes, waiting for my verdict. Unfortunately, I couldn't please him because I didn't like it at all. But at the same time, I didn't want to offend my father because he was trying to take care of his health. So I said it was interesting. Yep, interesting. I think interesting lies perfectly in the middle between disgusting and amazing. But my mum started to praise my dad and said she really liked it and that she was ready to support my dad in this endeavor. So there were big changes in our family diet. Now there was almost no food in our fridge that I'd like to eat. There were only bugs and crickets. I kept asking them to buy me what I liked for dinner, But it seems that my dad held a grudge against me for not supporting him, and he kept pushing me and convincing me that eating bugs was very useful. So I started to eat in other places. Unfortunately, I couldn't afford to go to a normal restaurant, so I mostly ate McDonald's. After a couple of weeks of this diet, I felt some changes in my body. Yeah, I started getting fat. After only 14 days, I had a small belly and even began to notice a double chin. Of course, this didn't go unnoticed by my parents. We had our first big fight. My parents were furious with the way I ate and how I was harming my health. So after a long educational lecture, they also took my pocket money away. I tried to convince my mother that it was wrong to do this and that I had to be left with a choice. But she was looking at my dad, who was finally in shape, and she was happy. So I had no support at all. I knew that this couldn't last long, and soon I had arrived at the last straw of my patience. One night, while Dad was cooking dinner, he spilled a box of bugs, and it looked like he didn't catch them all. And that was the cause of my nightmare, when the huge locust scared me to death. That night I ran to my parents' bedroom and woke them up screaming. We started fighting again, and I said I couldn't live like this anymore, but my father didn't care. He wasn't going to back down, because he thought we'd all have health problems if we ate like we used to. Then I gave them an ultimatum. Either they gave me the freedom to eat food that I liked, or I started a hunger strike. As I expected, Dad didn't bite when I provoked him. He probably thought I was bluffing. But the next morning, I missed breakfast. And when I got back from school, I didn't go to eat lunch. And in the evening, I didn't even go down to dinner. I have to say that already during lunch, I was terribly hungry. And I realized I couldn't last long. So I came up with a plan. I asked my friends to help me. They would bring me sandwiches to school, and I would gather a supply of food in my room. So I would suffer for a show, and then go up to my room and eat a tuna sandwich under the covers. And after a few days, I realized that I could win. Naturally, Mum couldn't just watch her son starve, so she started helping me too. She seemed tired of eating bugs and wanted to change something, but she was afraid to tell my father about it because it would upset him. But I was a hero who could change everything. Yep, not all heroes wear capes. Some of them starve. But my plan wasn't perfect, because I should have lost weight by starving, but my secret dinners in my room prevented me from that. So a week later, my father suspected I was tricking him and broke into my room and searched it. Unfortunately, he found all my food. There was a big fight, and Dad was yelling at Mum and me like crazy. We didn't even have a chance to say anything. It was clear that Dad was completely crazy on this diet, and he didn't want to make any concessions, but I still refused to eat bugs. So from that moment, I started a real hunger strike. The thing was, I never had a chance to eat. Dad checked my room and backpack twice a day, so I only really ate at school when my friends helped me. This regime made itself felt in a week. My skin was pale, I had bags under my eyes, and I had a constant stomachache. And it kept growling, like I had thunder in my belly, and I even managed to lose weight. But I can tell you for sure that this was the worst way to lose weight, so don't try this at home. I was about to give up and eat the damn bugs, but something bad happened. I was sitting in class, waiting for the bell to ring, so I could finally go to the cafeteria and eat something. I felt terribly sick and incredibly weak, so when I got up from my desk, my eyes went dark, and then I don't remember anything. I passed out in class. I woke up to the school nurse, shining a flashlight in my eyes. I was taken to the nurse's office, and she began to ask me about everything. I couldn't stand it anymore. I had to tell her that I was starving. This led to terrible consequences. A teacher called social services, and they started an investigation. They could have easily taken me away from my parents and appointed other guardians for me. I was very afraid of this and asked them to leave me with my mum and dad. Now once a week an inspector comes to us and checks my condition as well as the presence of food in the fridge. Dad apologized to me and said he was sorry and that he only wanted the best for me. I'm also so sorry that it took these terrible events to prove to him that he was wrong. I hope that this doesn't happen again and everything will be fine in our family. And now I want to go and eat a huge steak. So it's time for us to say goodbye.